So welcome to our webinar today. We're going to be reviewing embracing digital vehicle inspections, increasing your average RO, building that customer trust, and getting that second date. So let's go on a journey. Imagine with me, your customer comes into your shop for an oil change. Your shop uses digital vehicle inspections, and while the customer's oil change is being completed, your technician also completes a courtesy check. Your tech finds that dirty air filter, brake pads that are less than spec, and an outer tie rod that is loose. But more than finding those items, your technician took the time to take the pictures and the videos of those items. Your service writer, being as awesome as they are, quoted all of the work that the technician found, sent that checklist with the images and the videos to your customer, reviewed that quote with them, and the customer approved the air filter and the brakes. Just by using DVI Suite with images, your RO went from $100 to over $400. DVI Suite allows you to streamline your work you already do, provide images and value to your customer while increasing your profits through increased average repair orders. On top of the increased revenue and profits, DVI Suite allows your shop to secure repeat business by setting you up to ask for that second date with the customer. As we review today, we're going to go over the importance of using DVI to build trust, getting technicians and service writers to buy in, seeing your results from DVI, and how you can set your shop up for those repeat customers, getting that second date with that customer. We all know the auto repair industry is slightly higher on the food chain than lawyers and used car salesmen. This is due to the lack of trust. Is the repair really needed? DVI Suite is about helping you build that trust. Since you are doing the checklists anyway, why not do them digitally? Take the pictures, include the video of the engine making noise, identify the urgent repairs and the recommended maintenance. With all of these items in RWriter's DVI Suite and the effective communication with your customer about the needed repairs and maintenance, you can significantly increase the repair order value as well as increase your customer's trust in your shop. We know seeing is believing. Most people believe what they read or see is true. So give it to them, give them visuals. Use RWriter's DVI Suite to visually show them what is good or what is needed urgently or soon. Like I said earlier, take the pictures and videos. The more you visually show the customer, the more likely they are to approve the work. J.D. Power has stated that a customer who sees the need is 3 times more likely to approve the work. So make DVI Suite work for you. Require the images or videos on certain conditions, and then provide that completed checklist with the images and the videos to your customer via text or email. Instant trust builder. They see it, so they believe it, and they believe you. When a customer has your trust and can see the need, you get a return on your DVI Suite investment, as well as increased profit and revenue and return customers because you are building that trust. So let's break down that story from earlier. We used RWriter's Smart Oil through SmartyCat to help us quickly build the oil change for this vehicle. It helped us find the right parts, the correct amount of oil, while maintaining our package price. Additionally, it also ensured that we did not eat the cost of that 5 quarts of oil that were outside of our package. So just by using RWriter's SmartyCat and Smart Oil, we took this $70 oil change and increased it to $105, making sure that you are charging for all the parts over your standard package price. Next, we sent that off to our technician. Our technician completed that checklist in DVI Suite on their tablet. They took the pictures and the videos for our customers, and they found 3 items of concern: the air filter, the front brake pads, and the front outer tie rod. So back with the service writer using RWriter's SmartyCat, we were able to quickly source those parts and labors to add the tie rod, the air filter, and the brake pads as recommended from our technician. Because our technician used DVI Suite's checklist to inspect the vehicle, we can see our RO has increased from $105 to $946. Of course, we've got to get that to the customer. So our service writer texted the checklist to our customer. She's now seeing the recommendations and is discussing the quote with our service writer. Eek, that's a really dirty air filter. Great news, the customer moved forward with the air filter and the brake pads. She told our service writer that she likely would not have done anything but the oil change, but the pictures that our technician took changed her mind. Our final repair order is at $490. Just with using our writer's DVI suite, the technician recommended the services, the service writer subsequently sold the services, increasing the RO by $385. DVI suite made that happen. The completed checklist, the images and videos sent to the customer, and the digital communication help the customer see the need and approve the work. Remember, the customer declined that tie rod, so now you have a future repeat customer as well. Imagine doing this on every car that comes in your shop. Make it happen with DVI Suite. According to a Harvard Business Review, acquiring a new customer is anywhere from 5 to 25 times more expensive than retaining an existing one. And a lot of shops today, the customer's going to come in, they're going to get their repair or service done, they're going to pay their bill, they're going to leave. Those shops are never going to see that customer again. The end. Don't let that be your shop. Create a partnership within your shop to successfully embrace DVI and retain your customers with built trust.
So now we're going to get into the brass tacks of how to make that happen. We know that there's more to a successful shop performance and the factors that are involved. We need to know, what do we sell to the customer? How do we increase our customer count and our average repair order? And how do we keep that customer coming back? The responsibility for that shop performance has to be a partnership, guys. It's got to be a partnership between your front and your back staff. If the techs aren't completing those inspections, the front doesn't have anything to sell beyond that initial service request or concern. We need to impress the importance to the techs as well as the front that competent inspections are going to increase your sales, which increases their paychecks. If the front doesn't use the inspection results to sell, then the techs don't see the impact those inspections are having on the shop performance. And we need all of our staff to embrace those digital inspections. So we're going to start with the techs. The tech needs to complete those inspections. They need to take the time to actually look and record what they find, not just pencil whip through it. And when your techs see that increase in the hours that are direct results of their inspection results, they will embrace completing those inspections. The biggest key in getting that to happen, bar none, is working with your techs. And you need to make them part of that process. And this is where most shops stumble when they go to any digital vehicle inspection program. You've got to make them part of that process. Does that checklist work? Does it match their flow as they work their way around that vehicle? If you're just moving to a digital inspection platform, consider making the digital match the older paper ones that you guys are currently using. It makes it way more palatable for the technicians to get on board with it, because then all you're doing is changing the platform that they're completing those inspections on instead of the whole procedure. Now, if you're not currently doing any kind of inspection on a vehicle that walks in the door, my biggest question would be, why not? Whole goal is for us to increase sales. That's why we're here. So if you're not doing it and this is a new process, what I recommend is consider starting with a quick and easy, down and dirty courtesy inspection, just hitting the highlights, so the tech doesn't feel like they're wasting their time or is a huge time burner. And they need a more thorough inspection. You can add that after they've done that initial inspection, and you'd be surprised at what an engaged technician can notice in just to pop the hood and walk around the car and look underneath an inspection. You need to remember our DVI suite, when you get it out of the box, it comes with a full set of pre-configured checklists. There's simple ones, there's in-depth ones, there's very specialized ones around brake, diagnostics, AC, steering, exhaust, but they may not necessarily match what you're doing. Do not be afraid to adjust what's in the system to work with what your flow and your current procedure is. You want to make sure that the items and conditions are robust enough. And what I mean by that is, if you've got a brake, underneath that, you don't want just knees, pads, and rotors, or knees X or Y. Make sure those conditions underneath that item are robust enough that the guys are just clicking a button to pick what they find on that vehicle. It saves them having to go back in with the additional typing, which is frustrating for anybody, even in this day and age when you go texting. It is far easier for a tech to just click and select a button than have to go in and write War and Peace. They do have that ability to make those comments, But the easier we make it for the techs, the easier it is for them to adopt it. And when you're doing that, you want to make sure you're encouraging them to take those images and those videos, explaining it is how much easier it makes the service writer job to make the actual sale when they're sharing those pictures. Like the example Jennifer gave, sending a picture of that filthy air filter, it locked that sale. More than just saying it needs an air filter. The customer saw the fact how dirty it was and how important it would be in order to replace that. Now, in DVI, you do have the ability to make images and videos required for items and conditions. Some of the ones are already configured that way, or you can go in and if you think it's imperative that you get an image, you can click required image, and it will not let the technician complete that particular item until they have marked and taken a picture or a video. You know your crew better on whether or not a carrot or a stick is going to be the best way to do it. So you figure out what's going to work best in your environment to get your techs to buy into not only completing the checklist, but using the ability to take those images to make the sale easier for your front crew. Now, once you've got your crew using those checklists, you need to evaluate not just the checklist and the technicians. So you want to know, are they being used? Are they being completed? And when you look at that, you want to know if you have a technician that is, I call them Neos, they're fighting the matrix. They don't want to do the process the way they've been instructed to do. So it becomes a two-part process. If you look at your dashboard in DVI, there's also a very similar one and a more in-depth reporting in central service for this, which I'll get into a little bit in a minute. But if you look at the checklist dashboard button that's in your DVI suite, I prefer to call this the buy-in board. And the reason being is it will show you what checklists are being used, what percentage are being completed. It'll also show you what percentage of defects, again, we'll get into that a little later, as well as then breaking down by technician whether or not they're completing those checklists. So by using those two pieces to analyze, you can see, is the issue with the checklist or is the issue with a particular technician, that you can work with them, understand why they're not doing it, and see if there's a resolution. If it's a checklist, like I said, work with your team and see what can be changed on the checklist to improve that usage. Now, this isn't a one and done. This isn't, you just started with DVI. I looked, yeah, okay, they're doing it. This is something I highly recommend you do periodically. When you first get your crew using those checklists, check back after a couple of weeks, and check back at the end of the first month, then check back a couple months later and 6 months down the line, because you want to make sure your crew's not backsliding into bad habits. And even if you hire new technicians, great way to evaluate their inspection skills is being able to see what they're actually completing on those checklists as they start getting used to your methods at your shop. So now we've got the techs doing what they're supposed to. Back of house is providing those solid inspections. We're going to move to your front crew. They have to trust the process. You want to get those service writers to feel comfortable with the upselling that comes with using completed checklists and the issues identified on those checklists. We see an average, this is just a ballpark average, an average of 30 to 35% defect or recommended rate on digital inspections. That means for every inspection completed, 30% will find something that needs work. So now if you're using our DVI suite, you can view a report that'll tell you what the percentage, remember I mentioned previously, what percentage of items were found as a defect or requiring service. And by defect, I mean it needs attention now. This often includes maintenance items. It's mostly, leaks and wear items and things like that. So as we said earlier, we are programmed that seeing is believing. Customers are more inclined to trust the findings if they see them written, especially with the images and videos, if they're attached and it's a bare vehicle. We should be sharing those inspection results with the customers. That's what's going to make that an easier process. It improves our chance at the upsell, but it also goes for your service writer. Once your service writer sees the decrease in resistance and they increase the trust by sharing that checklist ahead of the sale, they will get on board with those checklists. They will be able to use it as a tool in their pocket and arsenal to increase your sales. So we were talking about central service and what a difference the reports can make, and one of the things you should look at. I like this report. It's literally just called checklist summary. And it's a down and dirty report. All it does is tell you how many ROs had checklists, what was my average RO, how many didn't, and what was my average RO. Well, like we said, seeing is believing. In this particular sample shop that we used, there were 8 tickets with checklists. Average RO on those tickets was $957. There were 21 with no checklist. Average RO was $384. How happy would you have been if the 21 that didn't have checklists had checklists and your average RO increased because of those checklists to come anywhere close to the 8? We want to work smarter, not harder, right? Well, you had 8 at 957, at 21 at 384. The only difference? Completing those checklists. So get your front staff using those checklists as part of the sales process, and you will see an increase in your sales, because you don't know what you don't know. Unless you take a look at the car, you don't know what else needs done and what is being left on the table. Now, very few people know about this tool, so you're going to get this tech tip for the day. In RO Writer, underneath the reporting tab, there is a button that says Management Analyzer. Very few people have ever played with it, but oh, is it cool. It lets you play what if. And where this comes in is, if you've got a service writer who is also dispatching, are they only selling what they think they can get done that day and out the door? If they're playing, one of my favorite expressions, checkers not chess, meaning they're letting that shop run them instead of them running the shop. They're not being proactive in what's going in what bay and what's getting looked at. They're going to be very hesitant to sell that additional work. They're going to feel overwhelmed. There has to be that yes mentality in the front. Yes, I can make the sale, and yes, I can get the work done. That means the back needs to be running efficiently so the front can feel confident. So sometimes when you sit down with your front crew, and this works with your techs as well, you can show them what small changes can do to the bottom line, and it sways their attitude over to that yes side of the fence. That's what the Management Analyzer helps you do. So what you can do is literally go in and make incremental changes to your car count, your average parts or labor, as well as your margins. And in the instance that you can see on your screen, all I did was increase my average parts by $50 and my average labor by $50. That's it. And it wound up being $23,000, not in total sales, in profit. It was $43,000 in overall sales difference just by adding 50 to my parts and 50 to my labor. And you can mix and match. So use this tool when you meet with your crew and show them what small differences can make. 5 more cars, 5 more percent, profit percentage under parts. Make sure you're getting the hours and things like that. What those little differences can make big changes over a small period of time, as long as they are aware of it. So don't be afraid to use the Management Analyzer to help you as a tool to work with your front staff to show them what little changes will make. So earlier, Jennifer referred to asking for the second date, and this is an analogy Jennifer and I use quite a lot. This is where the dating analogy comes in. We need to know it's okay not to sell it all in that initial visit, especially on new customers. You don't start making the wedding plans on the first date, right? So you take the time to provide that great experience to your customer during that visit. What are you doing after they leave? Jennifer's analogy earlier, customer comes in, you do the oil change, they pay the bill, they walk out the door. They go. What are you doing to get them to come back? Whether a new customer or a returning customer, shops will lose, on average, 30% annually of their customer database. 30%. So we need to convert as many of those first-time customers into repeat customers and make sure our repeat customers keep coming back. That's our goal. How do we convert those first-time customers into repeat customers? Asking for the second date. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. So when you do just that oil change and get them out the door without looking over the vehicle, you most likely will never see that customer again. By recommending for future service and following up on those recommendations, you're asking for the second date. So DVI Suite will help you build that trust, right? You've already got the trust there to ask for that second date. You've got 2 paths in our world, technically 3, but we're only going to discuss 2 today, to get them into that follow-up. In DVI Suite, you can mark certain conditions as requiring follow-up, and you set the number of days, that feeds into a table in RO Writer for you to be able to follow up with the customers. The other path is decline services. When you decline a service on or repair on an RO and close that RO, those decline services go to the same bucket as your follow-up ones from DVI. When you follow up on those declined and the follow-up items from DVI, you're asking for the second date. And what happens is you ask for the second. They come back in for that one. Now you're asking for the third and the fourth. So then they're hooked. If we've done our jobs right, there are customers to have and hold from this day forward. And just like dating, it gets really hard to cheat once you're dating somebody. So on that, we need to see the results. You can see in RO Writer, there's a decline services report, and it'll show you everything that was, I'm going to call it left on the table for lack of another term. If you are completing the inspections and not swinging for the fences on every single ticket because you want to leave something on the table for that return, you should have declined services. If you pull this report after you start doing these phenomenal inspections and you're not seeing a lot of decline, that means your service writer more than likely is not writing up everything. Then you get to go back and look at the inspection and say, well, did my technicians actually catch what they needed to catch? And did my service writer try and sell what the technician caught? So we're back to all the way back to the beginning when we were talking about working as a team. Your front and your back have to work together. Am I getting good inspections? Is my service writer selling? I say the declined services report is usually the best place to start. And it also gives you a list of those second dates. So those declined services are going to feed those repeat customers. And the repeat customers feed your profit. You need to understand that, as I said, you're going to lose 30% of your database pretty much every year. And studies will show that under 50% of new customers will return to you for service. So one-time customers are one and dones. However, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. 30 to 40% of customers will return for those repeat services, oil changes, decline services, whatever you've referred, when they are reminded by the shop that they need to come back for those services. We need to leverage those inspection results to generate that future revenue, and following up on the recommended repairs and services improves our chances of retaining those existing customers and converting those new customers into returning customers.
So as we walked through today, you saw that initial quote go from $105 to $490 with that initial $385 repair order increase. You also saw that there's a declined repair on the table for $456 that is now a scheduled service, and that customer is coming back in to get that work done. So not only did DVI increase our repair order at nearly 4 times, it also opened up for that future scheduled service, netting continued additional profit to your shop from this customer. Remember, it all starts with the buy-in from your team and using the right tools. Our Writer's DVI Suite, Management Analyzer, Dashboard, Reporting, and more. Embracing DVI Suite allows you to make small changes that have a huge impact to both you and your customer, building that trust, creating repeat customers, all while increasing revenue and profits. Again, thank you everybody for spending time with us today. We absolutely have enjoyed it with you, and we look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Thanks everybody.